So after nearly 72 hours of constant rain, we have this very clear sky and it's going to be a wonderful sunrise today, and we have a sheet of snow on the farm. Such a beautiful morning, isn't it? After so many days of cloudy weather and rain and some snow, a beautiful sunrise. And I can see one fish which is dead over here. Oh, I can see some movement in the fish. The fish is struggling to stay alive, guys. It's not dead yet. I'm gonna give it a fighting chance, leave it over here, come back in a couple of hours and check on it. It's alive. It's barely alive though. Maybe the sun is gonna do some magic on it and revive it back to life. What happened, Lisa? What do you want? What are you looking for? There, Vespa, did you find any other dead fish? Oh, she's not interested. She's interested to look at if there's any other fox. We usually have fox invade the farm, and the fox obviously come because they can see the ducks, they can see the chicken, they can see our rabbits. And Vespa over here, the guardian dog, is going to have none of it. Look how alert she is. Vespa, do you see anything? Anything at all? Come on, good girl. It's a very sunny morning, and this is an apricot tree called the big red, 3-year-old, but a very big tree. Now that's why I think they call it the big red variety, because it tends to become very big. And we have given it, as you can see, an open center formation where there is nothing in the center, and it's also called open vase or a wine goblet shape because that's how it looks like a goblet like this, open from the center for airflow. All these branches are radiating in all the directions and getting all the sun they can get. And if you notice, these branches are covered still with previous night's snow. They are laced with it, they are covered with it completely. Look at that. All of that is snowfall, is wrapped around these stems more or less. But this snow or this ice is not going to do any damage to the apricot. What does the damage, what we really fear, is the frost. And the frost can really follow this possible dip in the temperature, and the dip in the temperatures could mean the onset of frost. Now frost is something that we fear. Frost is something that kills the buds. They snuff the flowers out and you can have no crop at all. So there is no problem with the ice, there is no problem with the snow really, but the frost which follows is the problem. Look at that, ice over here adjoining these beautiful apricot buds. This particular apricot, which had given us nothing at all last year, now it's blooming. It's in mid bloom, at least this branch, and it's got all these buds just about to burst open. It's got these droplets. Now the snow has melted. Like I said, the snow or the ice is not going to really have a problem. The problem is the dip in the temperature which can follow because of the snowfall, because of the recent rains that we have had. And dip in the temperature can lead to frost. Now the frost is something that can decimate the flowers, they can kill the buds, they can snuff them out, and you can have nothing at all, and it can destroy your harvest, and it can destroy the flowers overnight. Now as far as the peaches are concerned, they're all blossoming, they're in mid blossom. This is a flower which has blossomed, this is a flower which has blossomed, this is a flower which has, these are the buds which are yet to bloom. And if If we have this kind of sunrise, if we have this kind of sunshine every day, all of these are going to open up in a matter of days. This apricot is also in mid bloom, and this one is called the wondercott it is. And this has these buds, these, you know, almost burgundy color buds. These are yet to open. This one is yet to open. This one has almost opened up, it's halfway there, and as you can see there is ice on top of it. Like I said, buds or the flowers will have no problems as far as the snow or the ice is concerned. Problem is the dip in the temperatures, which can lead to the onset of frost, and the frost is absolutely vicious. It can destroy everything overnight. Look at these are the flowers. This particular variety, let me see which one this is. Oh, the tag has come off. Will have to look at my notebook where I have listed all the varieties, and this one has blossomed like the peaches. Look at these beautiful flowers, they're opening up. All these trees obviously going to be very happy because they were thirsting for the rain, and the rain has come. They have the moisture and they are flowering. This is the time that they needed the moisture because they were flowering. They need a lot of energy to put out these flowers, put the energy into it. So the moisture is wonderful, but the problem is the cold. The problem is the dip in the temperatures. The problem is the frost. So this ice over here on this branch, as you can see, there's ice on it, is not a problem. The snow is not a problem. The frost is a problem. There is also ice on these flowers, if you see, but they are not a problem at all. Now, if you can see, there's a lot of ice on top of the branches and on top of also some of the blooms, and this is not a problem at all. Though it seems like a problem, it's not a problem. In fact, a lot of farmers follow a technique of sprinkling water overnight on trees such as these, which have these buds and the flowers, to protect the buds and the flowers. So overnight what happens is the freezing temperatures come and the water turns to ice like this, and it protects the tree from the frost. It does not allow the frost to get to the branch or to get to the flowers. This is a technique people follow. So the ice is not a problem. What is the problem is the dip in the temperatures that can sort of lead to the onset of frost, and that can kill these beautiful blooms. Ice, no problem at all. This is our young apple tree. I think it's a 2-year-old tree, and it is on a rootstock called the M9 rootstock. And the buds on these trees have not even swollen. So this is perfectly fine as far as the fluctuation of temperatures we have been receiving. Look at these buds, they're still pretty dormant. This one again is a dormant tree. This is a cherry tree. Cherry trees, the buds have slightly swollen, but they are not quite there yet. And this again is a pear tree, and it's a plum fruit. The apple and the pears are called the plum fruits, and these are still dormant. So as you can see, the bud over here, it's not yet swollen. This particular variety that we have is the Pakham Carmen. It's on Quince 29C, which is again a dwarfing rootstock. All the trees on the farm are on a rootstock or are on a dwarfing rootstock, because I want to keep the trees small so that they are accessible to me, so that I can work on the trees myself. I don't have to depend on labor. And all of them, as you can see, they are different varieties together. I have the pear over here, and then we add the plum next to it, and over here we have a cherry tree, and the next one is a plum tree. This one is a cherry tree, and the one beyond is the apricot tree, and so on and so forth. And then we have this one in the bud swell stage. This particular variety is called our Perimasi, and this particular tree did not really bear us anything, though the other varieties of its kind bore us some sample fruit last year. Remember, these are trees that we planted in 2022, not too long ago, and they are already going to be giving us some harvest this year. This year We are hoping for a good harvest because I can see the bud formation that I could not see last year. Last year there was hardly any bud formation, and the only bud formation there was, the only flowering that we saw last year was on the tips of branches like these, and there was nothing on the lower branches. This year I can see a lot of bud formation also on these lower branches, and we have bud formation, as you can see, all the way from the lower branches right up till the tip. So that is why we are going to be really very disappointed if there is frost and it destroys whatever has been produced. This one is, I think it's the big red. Yeah, this is the big red variety. And I think they call it the big red not because of the size of the fruit, but because of the size of the tree. As you can see, this tree is large for its age, and this has become really huge. But even though this tree is very big, it's accessible. All these branches are accessible to me because I have given it an open center formation. Now that's another advantage of having a wine goblet open center formation for apricots, for peaches, for nectarines, and for many of the stone fruit trees, because these branches become accessible even though the tree is very large. All these branches are accessible to me. Its neighbor is our very cold hardy shrub. This is not a tree, remember, this is a shrub. This is the sea buckthorn. Last year we did not get any berries from it, though we got a lot of leaves, and you can make sea buckthorn tea from the leaves as well as from the berries. And this is a medicinal plant which grows, which is native to Spiti, which is native to Ladakh, and we are introducing it over here. I've got about 50 of these. This one is going to hopefully give us some berries this year. Last year no berries, but this year the tree has become really very tall. Now if I stand next to it, this is almost about, say I'm 5'9", so this is almost about 6'5", 6'6", thereabouts. This tree, when I bought from Spiti, was as big as this twig. So in the matter of 3 years, or 2 years rather, because I planted this in 2023, I think it was, in the matter of 2 years it has become this big. This is the nitrogen fixing tree. Apart from the fact that it's going to give you berries and all the leaves for tea making and other medicinal purposes that this shrub can be used for, it is also a nitrogen fixing tree. It has these nodules on its roots, and these nodules contain the bacteria. The bacteria over here in these nodules is called the Frankia bacteria. In the nodules of our legumes like the peas and the beans, we have a bacteria called the rhizobium bacteria. But this shrub, along with the autumn olive, which we also have on the farm, has a bacteria called the Frankia bacteria. The roots grow really deep, and this will also distribute nitrogen to its neighbors. So it's a very beneficial tree to have among your other fruit trees. So this is not very far from this apricot, this big red apricot that we have over here, and not very far from this cherry tree we have over here. So this is hopefully going to distribute its goodies, its nitrogen, to its neighbors. This is another apricot, and this apricot is the Bella Dumella. Last year it bore us nothing at all, and we were contemplating what to do with this variety. But this year it has given us some buds. Now all that we need to see is whether they survive. And this is one of my favorite apricots that we planted. This is again a 3-year-old plant. The plantation was in 2022. This is the Prisia apricot. We harvested a lot from the small tree even last year, though that was the first year of its bearing, and this year it's full of buds as well. But last year it did not face the kind of temperatures, the fluctuation of temperatures that we've had, the change in weather that we had this year. So I am not too sure how this is going to fare this year, though it's laden with buds, as you can see. And these are the very bright red buds, swollen buds of the apricot called the hollycott. they look healthy to me, and I hope there is sunrise now and there is a lot of sun for the next couple of days, because that's what we require. Here, let me check on the tag. Now, tagging is very important when you have a diversity of different kinds of fruit trees growing side by side. Now, this is Wondercott, like I said. So, if you do not have tags like these, you will not know what kind of a variety you have. This is a plum called the prune, and the variety is called Stanley. This one has not really woken up from its winter slumber. As you can see, the buds haven't swollen. It seems to be dormant like our apples and our pears. This almost looks like a pear plant from a distance. And this here is the plum in a bud swell stage. Again, it's got some ice on top, ice or snow on top, and they are just about to burst. These buds burst into flowers, and all that we hope is they burst when there is no frost. And this variety over here is called the Black Splendor. Now, Black Splendor is a wonderful plum to have. The only problem with this plum is that it's a little early blooming plum, which means that it's going to be susceptible to the frost. Anything which blooms early, like this peach over here, which blooms really early, is going to be susceptible to the frost. This one is a variety called the Wondercott again, and this also has ice on the branches, ice or the snow on its branches, and that's perfectly all right. This very tall tree that you see over here that I'm standing under is the black locust or the Rubinia. Now, it's a native species also to the Himalayas. This is also a nitrogen fixer like our sea buckthorn and the autumn olive. This fixes nitrogen. As you can see, this has become really very tall tree in a matter of 2 years. Very tall. This is about what, 30 feet now already. Very fast growing tree, surprisingly. Should plant it where there is any soil erosion or you need some kind of nitrogen in the soil. This is obviously not a fruit bearing tree, but it's a good idea to also have some native species on the farm, because the birds and the butterflies, they are used to these kind of trees rather than the trees that we plant for fruit. So we have the cherry tree still dormant. This is a very young tree which is grafted upon, an apple tree, not doing very well, but hopefully this year we're going to work on it. This is a pear tree which has not woken up from its winter slumber. These are the buds of a tree called Black Splendor variety of plum. The buds have opened up. An apple tree, and then again the big red, which as you can see is big for its age. It's 3 years old. Sea buckthorn, very tall already, and we are hoping that this one bears us some berries this year. Cherry tree over here, not yet woken up. This is the plum tree, woken up. Apricot tree with the bud swell. This one is the Parimasi, and then we have the peach tree, of course, in mid bloom. And this native tree that we have on the farm is an ever bearing tree. This is, we locally call it the moru. This is the green oak. How do we tell that it's a green oak? Because it's got the green undersides. There are 3 kinds of oaks in the Himalayas: the white oak, which have the white undersides, and the brown oak, which has the brown undersides, and this one is the green oak because it has the green undersides. This is found in our altitude mostly. It's going to be providing a habitat for the species that are used to seeing this tree around. Remember, our fruit trees are not native to this part of the world. We need the fruit trees. We have imported them, we have sort of introduced them to the farm, to this world, but these are the native species. These are the ones that constitute what is called a habitat. These here are our berry beds. These are the raspberries over here. This particular terrace has raspberries and the blackberries interspersed with one another. So these raspberry canes, if you see, they look absolutely dead and finished, but you'll be surprised in a couple of weeks perhaps, if we have this kind of sunlight, they will start sprouting leaves. This is the garlic bed. Now garlic has no problem, come frost, come blizzards, come snow, come sleet, whatever, no problem whatsoever with the snow. It's a good idea when you have any land lying fallow to plant, to sow garlic in it for winter as a winter crop, because garlic, like I said, has got no issues with the cold. Frost can destroy flowers, it can destroy apple crops, peach crops, apricot crops, but it can do nothing to the garlic. Another nitrogen fixing shrub on the farm apart from the sea buckthorn, and this one also bears us berries, and this is the autumn olive. The autumn olive locally is called the gain. This is a beleaguered shrub in our part of the world. I say beleaguered is because the first thing that we do when we start doing some serious farming, some serious plantation, is that we take out the shrubs that borders our farm. Now this, you won't see too many of these now anymore, because earlier these were forming a natural border between our farm and a neighbor's farm, our farm and the forest. We take them out and we replace them with barbed wire fences, which are not very effective to keep out the cattle. This was very effective, and this was the habitat, this is the habitat of the birds and the bees. The birds especially, they nest on it, they feed on the berries they produce, and they really thrived because of shrubs like these, which unfortunately we take out at the first instance. We start assuming we are progressive farmers, so we want to keep our orchards very clean. We don't want any kind of wild grass growing over there, any kind of wild shrub growing. Even on our borders, we don't allow any kind of wild shrub growing. My family as well destroyed all these bushes from our borders, and now they were replaced. Now we had to replace them with barbed wires. Very expensive affair and not very effective. Our dog Beswa has to chase cattle every now and then because there is some kind of an infringement through the barbed wires, but these kept a lot of cattle at bay because they were impenetrable. These were the perfect fences for us. They were the habitat for the birds. They were the habitat also for the native bees that we have in this part of the world. They provided berries to the birds. Now the birds had nothing to eat, and then they enter our orchard, and then we have to beat some tin or something to keep them away from our cherry orchards. So any of my fellow farmers in this part of the world, if you're watching this, please recognize this tree. This is an autumn olive. This is a nitrogen fixer. This is a wonderful windbreaker. This is a wonderful fence to have, and this is a habitat for the birds, and birds which benefit us in more ways than one. Now behind this cottage over here we have our strawberry patch, and these strawberries, some of the leaves have dried out, but some of them are coming alive. They're very cold hardy, as you can see. There was snow, there was frost, all the rest of it, but nothing really happened to them. And among the native flowers, among the native cold hardy flowers, the calendula reigns supreme. Cold, blizzard, frost, nothing deters them from pushing out these beautiful orange flowers.